One of the biggest misconceptions about boundaries is that a boundary is what you say no to. And that's actually not what a boundary is at all. A boundary is actually just self definition. And so today I want to clear up some misconceptions about boundaries, how to set boundaries, what boundaries actually are, and what they're not. And I also am going to get into the role of anger with boundaries because boundaries, I think, have gotten this sort of bad rap just because boundaries are often set with anger, but there's this whole relationship behind the scenes in your nervous system between shame and anger when anger is expressed, and then actually the functionality of anger, because anger is not bad at all. It's just very misunderstood. And what happens when you're actually angry and you set a boundary? Is it even achieving the goal that you ultimately want? So we're going to get into all of that. But first, my name is Kate Colley. I'm a clinical hypnotherapist. I have been working with people for, I don't know, 20 years at this point. I started seeing clients when I was 16, doing energy healing. I am a men's coach now and essentially just work very heavily with the subconscious mind. The subconscious mind is what is below the surface of our conscious mind. Our conscious mind is 5% of us. It's what we're aware of, and it's where people operate from when they're in talk therapy. So you're accessing a linguistic 5% of you, and then people wonder I've been in therapy for a billion years and I haven't necessarily experienced the results that I'm wanting. That is simply because you have not passed the gatekeeper called your critical faculty and entered into your subconscious mind, which is where all the hardwiring is, and you will continue to repeat the patterns in your subconscious mind, basically until you reach your hands beyond that critical faculty and you rewire some stuff. Okay, so long way of saying I really like humans. I really like human behavior. And if you also like that kind of stuff, if you want to up-level a lot your emotional health, hit the subscribe button, hit follow. So boundaries. A boundary is not what you say no to, but that is often how people think of boundaries. And I give this example quite often about what a boundary is. My favorite color is my boundary. And your favorite color is your boundary. So if my favorite color is pink, which it is, and let's say your favorite color is blue, that is what defines me because we're different. And part of the most delicious thing about being a human is connecting via intimacy. And I don't mean sexual intimacy. I mean intimacy as in just closeness, as close as two people can get. Connecting two people with intimacy, it feels so yummy. Okay, we love this as humans, but in order to really connect in a way that feels good, you have to have boundaries. You have to have self-definition. So if my favorite color is pink, your favorite color is blue, and I'm certain, I know my favorite color is pink because half the things in my home are pink, as you can see, and maybe you have a bunch of blue things. And if we both know with certainty what our favorite colors are, you can imagine I have this pink bubble that defines me all around me. You have a blue bubble and our bubbles can touch. Our bubbles can touch as close as they want, and it can feel really good because it is such a joy. It is such a pleasure for me to experience you and for you to experience me. On one side of the equation, codependency, which often is involved with a lack of boundaries, would be that your favorite color is blue, my favorite color is pink. But I need your validation because I have an insecure wound inside of me that I haven't looked at, that I don't have autonomy or agency relative to, meaning it controls me. I have that program inside of me where I was so wounded around my autonomy and I need it to be soothed because I can't soothe it myself, that I need your connection and your validation in order for me to feel okay, right? So what happens in codependency is my favorite color is pink, your favorite color is blue, our bubbles come together, but because I need something from you, but I'm not aware of it, I will say, ooh, I better say something like, my favorite color is blue too. I actually really like it. I don't really like pink that much. Okay, that's a personal boundary violation. Why? Because there's murky energy now in my pink bubble. There's a part of my pink bubble that lacks definition. And now some of that blue is getting in, and now we can't be as close. Because being close to you makes me feel self-abandoned, and that doesn't feel good. And when that doesn't feel good, over time, and I'll have a certain threshold, I will lash out at you. I will get mad at you for quote unquote disrespecting my boundaries. But when we look at it this way, you're not disrespecting my boundaries. I am lacking self-definition, because self-definition is what a boundary is. Okay, I hope that makes sense. On the other side of the equation, there's the opposite of codependency. It's like hyper-independency. It's maybe more like avoidant behavior and just a general lack of intimacy, but on the other side of the equation. So in the bubble scenario, what that looks like is my favorite color is pink, your favorite color is blue, our bubbles come together, and then I say, oh, you suck. Because your favorite color is blue. My favorite color is better. Pink is better, blue sucks, and I am creating a superior ego power over you in order for me to maintain my boundary. And therefore, again, intimacy doesn't feel good because you have to be wrong in order for me to be right. So there's different ways that we violate our own boundaries all the time, especially relationally. A healthy boundary actually comes with pretty much entirely neutrality. Because if I know, like I know, like I know, my favorite color is pink, you could say anything you want to me about favorite color, and I won't have an emotional response to it. It won't affect me because I'm like, no, I actually just know my favorite color is pink. The reason we have an emotional response, such as anger, relative to our boundaries is because we have a leaky part of our bubble. We have a leaky part of our self-definition. And I've been working lately with a ton of people, a ton of men, on healing from avoidant relationships. They're in a relationship with an avoidant woman. I've posted a bunch of Instagram content about this recently because I used to be avoidant, and it was through a whole lot of pain and inner work and inner child work that I really had to look at, like, well, why does love not feel good for me? And having come out the other side, anyways, I post a lot of content on Instagram, so I have a ton of clients right now that are healing from avoidant people, avoidant women. And one of the things that they keep saying is that I still am angry at her, or I'm ruminating on certain thoughts of the past of, well, she did this and I can't quite get over it. Now, most people might tell you, oh, to like let it go, to be present, to this and that, but I am a shadow worker, so I don't take things at face value. I believe that there is a reason for absolutely everything, that patterns repeat at all levels. And so if somebody is ruminating on something and the brain is generating those thoughts, there's a damn good reason for it. I literally do not believe that the body just generates random information for no reason. And the way that I look at it is those thoughts is coming from what? A feeling. The feeling is anger. So you can imagine the thoughts in the conscious mind have roots into the emotional body because feelings are felt in the body, not in the mind. And the feeling that is being generated is anger. Now, the only time a human being experiences anger is when there is a perceived threat coming at them. And I'm going to break this down for you with a bunch of examples so that you really understand it, okay? Now, the threat that we are very much hardwired for, because we are a mammalian species, is we are hardwired to protect ourselves from big cats. Big cats is actually what I said. Sorry, I laughed when I said it because it just sounds so silly every time I say it, because nobody that I know has a tiger attacking them at any moment of their life. But this is how we're hardwired. We are hardwired to protect ourselves from big cats because a big cat is a threat to us. Okay. Now, the way that human beings experience anger is not toward big cats as a way of self-preservation. We experience anger, and you might want to write this down, as emotional threats to our sense of self. Think of the bubble. If my bubble, my pink bubble, has some leaky parts to it, some mushy parts to it, that my consciousness, my awareness, distance itself from or completely disassociated from, then that wishy-washy part of my bubble is like an open portal for other people and other people's awareness and relationships to basically violate my boundaries. But it is not their fault. Okay, I believe in 100% responsibility. My boundaries are 100% my responsibility. There's no bulldozing people into following your boundaries. There's no telling people you have to follow my boundaries. It is 100% your responsibility to have agency and know, hey, this person maybe hasn't reached a level in their life where they are even capable of respecting my boundaries. And if that's the case and I am operating from self-love, then I will distance myself from that person. Now, there's different ways to do this in relationship and in intimate relationship and in friendship and with people that you don't know that well. There's different levels to this. But we experience boundaries and the anger relative to boundaries because it's an emotional threat to our sense of self, right? So anytime we experience anger, we are perceiving a threat coming at us, but it is not a tiger. The anger that we are experiencing is pointing to the part of our bubble that's wishy-washy, that needs more self-definition. Because again, if it were to have full self-definition, then I would feel neutrality around setting a boundary or acting upon my boundary. There's a lot of neutrality in it. The only time anger comes with a boundary is when we perceive it as a threat because our self-definition is not clean enough. Does that make sense? Like, I'm making sense in my head here, but please let me know in the comments if you have questions about what I just said. But I am going to walk you through this with tigers so that we can actually really understand the functionality of anger, because that's oftentimes where people get tripped up. And then I'm going to help you with a process that I have developed of how to understand what your anger is telling you so that you can set boundaries with neutrality and then what that looks like. Okay, so like I said, we are a tribal species. We are mammals, very much similar to zebras, somewhat, right? Zebras are also a tribal species. So if you imagine this like real cute pack of zebras hanging out in the grass, they're totally in rest and digest, and they're just loving eating the grass, and their digestion is working fantastic. That's important to remember. A tiger jumps out of the brush. And what do all the zebras do? Okay, this is what I'm walking you through with zebras is the same nervous system response that we do as humans when we have a threat coming at us. When we perceive a threat, we go through this same process, even if it's an emotional threat. First, the zebras freeze. Okay, this is not freeze marked by trauma. This is freeze marked by fear and curiosity. The zebra's basically thinking, oh shit, if I stay really, really still and I don't move, maybe the tiger won't see me, okay? But the tiger sees one of the zebras and it starts to run. What's the second line of defense that zebra does? It flight, runs away. When we talk about fight or flight, this is the correct order that it happens in. The zebra runs. The zebra knows on a very real bodily mammalian level that running away is going to be more effective than fighting a tiger. Okay, we know this too as humans. So the zebra runs. And when the zebra runs, it produces a lot of stress chemical in its body. And the blood flow goes away from the digestion because it's not worried about digesting grass anymore. It goes into its hands and feet and extremities so that it can run really fast. The heart rate elevates, yada, 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 right? All the physiological things that happen when we are in a state of stress. The zebra run. And let's say at some point the tiger catches up and it lunges for the zebra's what? Neck, jugular, okay? This is why body language, by the way, is so accurate, because body language will always tell you an accurate reflection of a nervous system change in somebody. What do I mean by that? When you're talking to somebody, or if you notice this in yourself and you play with your jewelry, you touch your neck relative to what's being talked about, okay? You always have to use body language relative to what's being talked about. Or you go like this, or you touch your jugular. Sometimes you see people do this. This is literally that person or yourself protecting yourself from a threat. The only reason we do that is because we are unconsciously protecting our jugular from big cats. But again, we don't have physical threats coming at us. We have emotional threats to our sense of self coming at us. But our body responds the same way as if it were a physical threat. All right, back to the zebra. So the lion attacks the zebra, and the zebra at that moment goes, oh shit, the initial freeze didn't work. Running away didn't work. I'm about to die. Now, the zebra really loves life. The zebra really wants to procreate. The zebra wants to fulfill its mission of creation in the world. And so, what does it do as a self-loving mechanism to preserve its life? Fight. It produces a ton of anger because the functionality of anger in a mammalian body is to push away a threat. And when we look at it from the zebra's perspective, we can all be like, well, that's fantastic. We also want the zebra to live. Anger is so useful. Anger is so good in that moment because then the zebra can fight away the tiger. I will transition just for a moment into trauma just so that I can close that loop, and then just know I have other videos and resources relative to trauma healing, including an entire course that I get the most phenomenal results from called Rewild Your Release, which is how to remove trauma and complex trauma from your body. Literally, you don't have to remember anything. Like, you don't have to regurgitate the trauma is what I mean. And how to rewrite your entire life script in your nervous system, not just in your logical mind. Okay, but closing that loop, the zebra fights. The zebra goes, what the fuck? I'm fucking pissed. I want to push this threat away. And it starts to fight. Now, at a certain point, that fighting will become useless. There's a certain point in the zebra's body where the zebra is like, you know what? If I continue to fight, at this point, I am definitely going to die. And my nervous system, this is the zebra thinking, my nervous system is so overwhelmed. I actually cannot handle more overwhelm. My nervous system cannot handle any more input of anger. And so my last option is to accept death. That's the moment of trauma. When we actually look at trauma, trauma is not an event. Trauma is a nervous system response relative to overwhelm where it freezes, okay? The zebra will freeze. That is trauma. And the zebra only freezes when the anger has proven to be futile, because anger is always the last ditch effort for survival. And I got that quote from Teal Swan, so I want to give credit, obviously, where credit is due. But I will say it again. Anger is the last ditch effort for survival. The zebra went through all these other survival mechanisms. If I do this, that doesn't work. If I do this, that doesn't work. The last ditch effort for survival and self-love are the same thing. Then I will generate anger. And when anger doesn't work, the zebra accepts death. It goes limp, disassociates from its body, and it essentially goes, I accept death, and so I will remove my awareness from my body so that I can be eaten without experiencing pain. That is literally what trauma is. You can eat me and I won't experience pain. The problem happens is if the tiger were to run away or get distracted, that zebra would then click back on, and it would go through a series of processes in its body where it is completing the trauma cycle and actually shaking and removing the trauma from the body, so that when it goes back to the zebra tribe, it can once again digest grass properly. Because the awareness has to come back into the body, and it can't just know logically that the tiger is gone. The body and the nervous system have to know that the tiger is gone. Human beings, unfortunately, because we have a prefrontal cortex, which allows us to make art and poetry and wonderful things and have sex for more than just procreation, on all metaphors, I mean that of life, we experience trauma just like the zebra. But because we have this prefrontal cortex, we have too much top-down processing, and we tell our body not to shake and not to go through that process. So half of us remains frozen, and then we go back to our tribe. And then we cannot digest food, literally. And it causes sometimes illness, digestive issues, depression, mental, emotional struggles, addiction, all kinds of things. Again, I have more resources on that, but this isn't a whole video on trauma. This is just so that you understand the full picture of anger and of boundaries, right? So for the zebra, the boundary is, I don't want to be eaten. The tiger is the boundary. I'm going to generate anger to push that tiger away. Now, in a human being, we experience that anger, again, as a last-ditch effort for survival, but it's survival of our ego. It's survival of our sense of self. It's almost never, except for in physical altercations, it's almost never for survival of our physical self. So I hope by now you can see that there is an intelligence to anger. In fact, there is an intelligence to every single one of the uncomfortable emotions that people constantly try to run away from. And in order to healthily process anger, you must be present to the anger without reacting to the anger. So this isn't just breathing through your anger and minimizing it and continuing on to save face or to be nice or to be the bigger person. That's not it at all. Okay, that's repression, suppression. But it's also not like, oh, I have anger, I have a boundary, and I'm just going to act on it immediately. The immediate action of anger is only useful in physical altercations. In emotional ones, it is not useful at all, because the threat that is coming at you is not a real threat. It is a perceived threat that is pointing to an area of sense of self that you don't know about yet. It's letting you know, hey, there's something about you that we want more definition about. There's something about what I really want, what I really, really value in life that I feel like I can't have. So on the vibrational scale of emotions, meaning all emotions vibrate at a certain frequency, the ones that are at the top, love, joy, the ones that we usually don't have resistance to, they vibrate higher. They feel good. It processes information faster. When you're at those higher frequencies, your actual periphery of what you're aware of and the opportunities you have in your life is open. It's rest and digest. It's looking at the bigger picture. You can see the third option. You're not existing in binary thinking. Now, as you go down that scale of emotional frequency, the emotions get like lower and denser. They vibrate slower. Anger sits about below neutral for sure. It doesn't feel good, but it's far above the worst emotion to feel, which is powerlessness. Shame is just a smidgen of a hair higher than powerlessness. Those feel the worst. Those vibrate the slowest. Those constrict our periphery and our vessel the most. Anger is a bit of a ways above that, because anger will always let you know, I still see an empowered solution for me here. Anger will let you know, I still see an empowered solution. I'm having trouble getting to that empowerment. And because your body loves you unconditionally, it produces anger, because anger is this momentum forward where you can act quickly without thinking towards your self-loving solution. So anger is always trying to get you back up to empowerment by pushing away a boundary. But like I said, it's not a real threat. This is where it gets a little bit tricky, because we have the prefrontal cortex that will place meaning and metaphor and story around everything. It's a perceived threat to our sense of self. So the usefulness in anger is not to breathe through it, not to meditate through it, but the usefulness in anger is actually to hold it in your body and let it reveal itself to you by means of it showing you what is actually important to you, which is usually a boundary. Okay? You got that? That's how we kind of pieced all that together with anger and boundaries. The anger will almost always let you know of a boundary that you have, but a boundary is not what you say no to. A boundary is self-definition. So when someone, something, life circumstance makes you feel angry and you want to react by setting a boundary right away without processing the anger appropriately, you are communicating to your nervous system, subconscious. Subconscious is patterned and hardwired, that you are agreeing that that person or circumstance is a threat. And yes, let's continue to be hyper vigilant about that threat. Okay, the way that I like to explain uncomfortable emotions are like that they are a bubble wrap. Okay, the uncomfortable emotions like anger is bubble wrap. And there's this really cool piece of gold called your authenticity inside of that bubble wrap. but your awareness hasn't reached that gold yet. That gold really wants to be known. We wrapped that shit up, that gold, so long ago in childhood, probably before the age of 7, and from generational patterns and woundings and traumas and everything. And we have distanced our awareness from that gold. And now the only thing we have awareness to is the bubble wrap, right? And in this example, it is the anger. If your awareness is getting to the anger and you are either breathing through, repressing, or ignoring the anger, you are also repressing and ignoring your authenticity in the middle of that anger. You are ignoring your boundary in the middle of that anger. And if you are reacting to the bubble wrap of anger, then you are basically validating that the threat is real and not a perceived threat. And also the same thing, you are ignoring the gold. You're never going to get to the gold if you are validating your external life and the people around you to be the source of your anger. Anger has an extreme amount of potency for you to step into fully an empowered sense of self. But you have to actually feel the anger in your body, have a relationship, intimacy, closeness with the anger in your body, and basically sit with it, work with it, massage it until you get to that gold, which usually is a boundary. It's something about your self-definition that you have disassociated from a long time ago. So in intimate relationships, what I do recommend is that when you are triggered, when you are angry, and this is intimate romantic, intimate close, just basically people that you are close with and people that are safe. Okay, all humans make mistakes, but like there's a general kind of safety where you know that that person wants what's best for you, that they're willing to work with you in a positive way. Okay, you never express as much as you can. You don't express the anger to that person. You always express the soft underbelly to that person. In order to get to that soft underbelly, you actually have to hold and understand the deeper meaning of that anger. Because sometimes what happens is that as you get into anger, there are vulnerable, repressed parts of yourself in that anger. The one that feels unworthy and has so much shame around that unworthiness that they never want to be seen. And if someone starts to poke at that vulnerable, repressed self, someone might generate anger to push that threat away because the threat is, I'm going to expose my shame. Right? So again, in a healthy relationship, it would be sitting with the anger long enough to understand and bring awareness to the fact that there's a part of you that feels shame, and you express that part of you, not the anger. And you can express it any way you want. You can say, I was feeling angry, but what I'm realizing is that, like I feel in my body, there's like a really squishy, vulnerable part of me that feels unworthy. Would you be willing to sit with that part of me, right? Would you be willing to meet that part of me? Sometimes we experience anger and the voice of anger initially is like, well, you're not respecting me. Okay, who's the part of you that feels disrespected, and why does that part of you feel the need to have other people treat you in a certain way in order to feel respected? It's a dichotomy. Like, do you see what I'm saying? It's a split within yourself where you really, really desire respect, and there's a vulnerable, repressed part that fundamentally feels unworthy of respect or just generally disrespected. And so by setting boundaries, by saying no to people and forcing and bulldozing other people to respect your boundaries, you are never actually expanding into full empowerment. You will continue to require other people to treat you, behave, react in certain ways, which is control and manipulation, okay? You will continue to control and manipulate others to behave and treat you in a certain way so that these parts of you that are wrapped up inside all this bubble wrap in your nervous system don't ever get exposed. What I'm recommending is we use all of our emotions for us as a gift. You're triggered? Oh, well, that's fucking great. Because if you're triggered into anger and you want to snap and make a quick boundary, you are giving your power to that person. You are basically saying, you are in control of my feelings. You must respect my boundaries or I will generate anger because I see you as a threat to these vulnerable parts of myself. But what if we held all of that and we used the functionality of anger to drive our awareness to go and save and reclaim these parts of ourselves. And then in a healthy relationship, or really in any relationship, you bring the boundary with neutrality, because from that perspective, they have no control over if you feel worthy, respected, this or that, whatever. You've already reclaimed that part of you. There's no need or neediness for that person to validate anything inside of you because you've already found it within you. You're simply offering your boundary as a gift to the relationship, and then you can see if they are capable and wanting to meet it. There's a bunch of neutrality in that. Do you see what I'm saying? So I do have other YouTube videos. I feel like this one's already getting a little bit long here. We're at 30 minutes about an actual 4-step process that you can plug anger into. So I will link that above. You can watch that. That gives more of like my systems of exactly what to do. Like, oh, I'm feeling angry. Okay, Kate said to sit with it, but I'm not sure what to do. Watch that video because it will walk you through 4 steps. And actually, the reason I even created 4 steps around an emotional process is because I've worked with so many men at this point, and men are not generally as good. They're really good at other things. They're not generally as good at processing emotions as women, and they like logic and systems. And so I've created a 4-step system, but obviously it works for men and women, to be able to process any uncomfortable emotion. But watch that video because then you'll have more information about how to actually get to that golden information inside of the bubble wrap. Because every time you are triggered, especially with anger, and you feel like you want to say no to something and set a boundary, it's such a gift of empowerment for you if you learn how to treat it that way. If you learn how to do the alchemy work inside of you to know that nothing is random, that everything is here for you, that you're doing a really good job, and that every part of you is lovable. Every part of you, every single part of you is lovable, is wanted, is welcomed, but you have to, or rather you get to, meet yourself in that lovability first, and then others will be invited via energetics and nervous system stuff. They will be invited to meet you there as well. But when you start treating every trigger as a blessing to the up-leveling of who you're truly meant to be, you'll find that you have all of these parts of you that really just want to be loved. And then you can stop outsourcing that love to other people, and you can start meeting yourself with real, true self-love. This isn't bullshit like I'm looking at myself in the mirror and telling myself I love myself in a toxic positivity affirmation-y kind of way. It's not that. This is like real self-love, not comfy all the time, but it's really meeting every part of you so that relationally, because our relationship needs are our top number 1 need as human beings, feel better. Where what you have to give in relationships is received by the other person, and what they give to you is received by you, and it creates this circuitry of blissful magic, and that's really what I want for you. It starts with this process, though. It starts with understanding that every trigger is there for you. And then in particular, anger is your body's way of loving you into empowerment, but it gets trapped in a low vibrational binary thinking, right? So to kind of reframe that one last time, anger gets trapped in binary thinking because it's looking at a threat. It's seeing there's a threat. How can I push away from that threat and protect myself? This is not intimacy. When you are in self-protection and you're pushing away a threat and you're setting a boundary because you're trying to do the right thing by setting that boundary, you are communicating to your nervous system that the threat is real and that I must protect myself from others. There is a third option, but you can only see the periphery of that third option when you allow the anger to burn up the bubble wrap. You get to the gold, you reclaim that part of yourself, and then you jump up the vibrational scale of emotions naturally into empowerment, which vibrates faster, and now your periphery opens, and then you can actually see who it is that you truly are, what it is that you truly want, and then you can start communicating that boundary through neutrality.